How do you manage when life takes a very sharp and dark turn? My guest today faced sudden job loss in her 50s and went on to an extremely successful career, coaching other women to not only survive, but thrive on the midlife crazy ride. Today, we're going to share three stellar strategies for navigating the inevitable twists and turns of life, utilizing our decades of experience and wisdom. Welcome to the Midlife Reset Podcast. This is episode number 42. I'm Cheryl Gordon, yoga therapist, mindfulness coach, and a new online entrepreneur who is putting all these tips to good use in my own growth. And welcome to our guest today, Susie Rosenstein. She is a life coach who helps women see that what feels like the worst thing, maybe a layoff, a setback, even that sense of invisibility, can actually be the very thing that sets you free. And she's not your typical coach. She's got practical tools, deep insight, and even a creative trick up her sleeve, mindful doodling. In today's conversation, we're diving into how Susie helps women thrive in midlife, one doodle and one mindset shift at a time. So, Susie, welcome. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thanks for having me. It's so fun to be here. I hope
Oh,
my dog stays sleeping and not too
oh.
much. I hope he's not too interested in what we're talking about. So hopefully he's right there in the corner.
But let's go back to that fateful day. You had no inkling of that big job change that was coming up, right?
That is true. I had been to a meeting around the time of the layoff, and there was an announcement made that if you're here, you made it through all the tough changes. And then a few weeks later came, and I did get that knock at the door, and I experienced a layoff. So it was one of those things that I'd been fantasizing about for years. But when it happens, it's pretty harsh. And I wasn't the only one. And it happens, but it was jarring. And I
I
knew it was an
bet.
opportunity, but I had to get past, how stressful it was because I'd been at the job just about 20 years.
Yeah. So right away, it's hard to see the layoff as a gift because it's such a shock. How long did it take for you to kind of reframe that event?
Well, I reframed it on the car ride home, but my emotions didn't catch up with me. Like even during the meeting, which was a big intense meeting with a bunch of, lots of people in the room and
Mm.
because of union and things like that. And I just remember thinking, I know it's a gift, I know it's a gift, but it doesn't feel like a gift. And even on the way home, I know it's a gift, I know it's a gift I couldn't give myself, but I wasn't there yet. So I would
Yeah.
say I because I'd been thinking about it for so long and just didn't have the nerve to do it, and understanding the fear I had around it was part of my way forward. It took, I would say, 3 to 6 months to really settle in. But
Yeah.
I was pretty on top of it because I'd been stuck for 5 years myself. Between 45
Mhm.
and 50, I really knew that something had to change. I wasn't feeling content anymore, which was unusual because I love my job. There was nothing wrong with my job. I'd just been there too long.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the other thing is that I really did like my job. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that's what happens sometimes with reorganizations and things like that.
Well, that's life. The same sort of thing happened to one of my dear friends, and she, like you, was happy enough in her job, but it was stale. But a lot of
Yeah.
things can happen in life, and usually, if you live 5 decades or 6 decades, you're going to experience some of these things. What brought you into being a life coach, though?
Well, I didn't really understand that until a few years into being a life coach. But right away, while I was stuck, what I like to call my midlife stuckness, in those 5 years, I did eventually get to the point where I was exploring ideas that I was interested in. So I'm like, okay, let's just see what kind of things have I always been interested in? And let's not question it. Let's just see what kind of jobs are available in those areas. I was a late adopter to podcasts and smartphones, and I really didn't know about life coaching. I just started to hear a little here and there, but I really was unaware, not listening to podcasts or anything. So I made a list of all the things I liked, and the kinds of things that were there were floral design, dog grooming, solar panels, real estate, psychologist, guidance counselor, like all kinds of things. And I thought, well, let me just check them out. And I knew enough that when I checked them to check in with my emotions. And I started to see really the only thing that I wanted was more quality relationships with people. And I thought,
Right.
I love people. I love getting to know people. I don't want just superficial relationships in my job. What kind of jobs could I develop relationships with people? And
Mm.
that opened me up and kind of cut the list down to things like guidance counselor, psychologist. Like I had a master's in psychology, maybe I could do more with it. So I started to look into people things. And then I met a life coach and I was invited to some kind of a talk. And I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. And it's not therapy. This is so different. And I could see right away that it was something I was always interested in. Now, what I didn't notice at the time was I'd been doing this kind of thing my whole life.
Ah.
Even in my yearbook, I talked about developing relationships with people and loving psychology, and I majored in psychology, and I was always fascinated with decision making and how people grow. And I didn't see that all of the interviewing I had been doing in my master's thesis was all about qualitative methods and actually the relationship with people and their pets and and just interviewing people long form looking for patterns, really trying to help them understand what they really think, so help me understand what they really think so I could appreciate what I was doing with research, and in that case the relationship between children and their pet dogs. And then here I gradually, it took a few decades, but I gravitated to the space where I have not even one, but two podcasts. I'm interviewing people all the time. And then with coaching, it's an opportunity to really talk to people at a deep level and connect and
Yeah.
help them grow.
Yeah.
So it kind of all came together, but it was seeing a life coach in action and learning about what it is that got me very excited. Like,
Yeah.
how do we grow forward? How do we not waste time? And then when I started to see all of that, I realized that my real why at a deep level was, what I experienced in childhood and how it was relevant for me now. And that was losing my parents at a very young age. So I
Mm.
lost my mother when I was 5. She was 32. My father, when I was 12, he was 41. And so, I mean, that's traumatic enough. But what I grew up witnessing was 4 grandparents grieving the loss of their young adult children. And
Mhm.
young adult, they're not in their 20s, but they died too soon.
Mm.
And so I really saw that. And I started to put it together over the years. Wow, my parents didn't have the privilege to age. And
Mhm.
then when I got into this coaching space, which I've been in now over 10 years, I'm like, wow, I love midlife women. They're so amazing. When I'm coaching, I'm like, gosh, you don't know how amazing you are. Like, wow, they may talk a good talk. They may think that aging is a gift, but do they really believe it? Like they may say it. They may have a decal on their laptop. They may have a pillow that says aging is a gift, but do they really believe it? And the way that midlife women tend to think about what they can't do instead of what they can do really gets in the way. And then I started to see, wow, that my young experiences really helped me appreciate what the gift of aging truly means and what it means to really believe that it's a privilege in terms of wasting time and getting really focused so you don't have regrets.
That's not wonderful that you endured so much when you were little, but
Yeah.
it's wonderful how that's coming forward and helping women see the gift that life really is. And that forward focus that comes from life coaching is so interesting. I did a little bit of a big transformation after I hit 60. There were some, things that happened, which often happen midlife. And it really helped me to see, how do I want to live the next chapter of my life? Do I want to keep looking back and saying what I used to do or what used to be, or do I want to keep talking about my dreams that didn't end up really working out the way that I thought? You know what I mean? I wanted to be forward focused. And I think so many of us have some sort of painful crisis in our lives that
Yeah.
forces some growth. Could be a layoff, could be an illness or a financial setback. And a lot of us get stuck in that. We just let a kind of a blahness come over us. What's the point of trying anymore? This is all part of getting older. But you can start a reset on your own terms. Now, Susie, what are the top three tools that you use over and over again in your own life and with clients to help them get through that reset, to help them move forward?
This is such a great question because when you asked me, I had to think. And then right away, I just gave myself like 30 seconds and I'm like, Obviously, I use them all the time." So one of them has to do with envy. So when I
Mm,
realized the power of envy, I created a worksheet about it. So it's one of my tools. And, envy is one of those negative emotions that we're not very proud of. You may
yeah.
not even want to admit it when you're envious, but
Oh no,
there's
we're nice
gold.
girls.
No, we're nice girls. We don't ever want what other people have.
Yeah.
But there's gold in envy. If you can be curious about it and be compassionate with yourself for feeling it, what can you learn from it? If you want something that somebody else has or is experiencing, what does that mean for you? What is it that you really want? So it might not be a thing, it might be an experience. And one of the most telling things, most insightful things I got from this exercise once was from a client who said that she appreciated and wanted and envied this one friend she had that had time to visit sick people.
Mm,
Like, wow. So she
mm,
was really feeling, as she discovered by being curious about it, too busy to uphold one of her most important values in friendship and family was to support people that way. And she
hmm.
didn't feel that she could. And that's the thing when you're curious about envy, and it could be a fun car, it could be a second home, it could be a really cool winter coat. It doesn't matter what it is, it's just noticing, wow, what is it about what you're feeling right now that might be able to help you be happier.
Yeah.
So I like that one. I see
That's great. It's
you're
really
thinking about
unusual.
it. You're thinking about it too. Yeah,
I
it's a good
am.
one.
Now, now my brain is running. Anyway, number two.
Okay, number two has to do with passion. And so, what I've realized about passion is that a lot of midlife gals will actually say, I don't know what I'm passionate about.
Exactly. Yeah,
I
the
just don't know.
blondness.
I
Yes.
don't know. It's like a big blank. And I
Yeah.
think that's because it feels too big and scary. It's like if I
Mhm.
get it wrong, I'm going to waste my life and I'm going to have regrets. Or
Yeah.
passion has to be something where I make like some massive thing happen. It has to have a massive impact in the world.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be that way. So, again, because of this realization, I developed a tool, and this one is available as a freebie, and it's called Passion Project 50. And I can give you the link for the show notes. And so the idea is it walks you through chapters in your life, and you can define them as you like. The simplest way is to just start with grades, before whatever happened before you went to school, and then each school grade, and then however you define your chapters in your life after you finished school. It might be college, a university, it might be travel, it might be getting married, like whatever. You could even do decades or ages, it doesn't matter. But most of the time, when we're telling stories about our lives, we will also often talk about a hardship. Like I told you, my parents died. That would be something that I would naturally say in one of those conversations. Or if you moved, that could have been very traumatic, or if your parents got divorced. So, what the challenge is in this exercise is to think about moments of joy. What great thing, what did you love when you were in grade three? What did you love? What was the highlight of that freshman year? What something like that. And then
Yeah.
when you look at that list of things that you loved, there's more gold there. There are hints to what you're passionate about because there's a lot of reason to believe that what you loved and were passionate about as a kid or growing up would still bring you joy. And again, I've had clients do that and like see, wow, why aren't I riding horses right now? I used to love that. Or why I used to love the tap dancing one is what happened for me. Like, geez, I used to really like tap dancing when I was 13 and 14. I wonder what that would be like to try that again. And I thinking about why was it tap dancing? Because there's not any other type of dancing that I would be interested in. So really just being curious and thinking about what you can bring into your life again, and you don't need to make it some huge giant thing. If you discover, one of my other discoveries was, this idea about turtle tagging in Costa Rica, I would love to do that. maybe I'll volunteer and do that someday. And
Yeah.
whale watching has been a passion of mine. I'm even wearing a whale. I'm always wearing a whale tail. And so one of the things that I realized is that there are ways that I can bring more whale watching into my life. I don't need to work in marine biology and do observations and keep research about whales. I don't need to go into it at that level at 62, but I could, or I could just make sure that I take more vacations that are on the ocean, or that I join clubs or place ways to donate or go to special lectures, or just keep it top of mind to amplify that passion, that joy that I have, and bring it into my life more and more.
Yeah. And before we get to tool number three, I just want to weigh in that it's just so important for midlife women to have the container, the permission, the support to do that curiosity because we're so outward focused on everyone else, right?
Yes, and we also are so focused on being productive. And
Hmm.
I know that you that there might be a question coming about that, but and we'll get back to it about this productivity thing and how we're so focused on it. But sometimes that means that we don't allow ourselves to lean into the kinds of things that we love because we don't feel it's a worthy enough activity, a worthy enough way to spend our time or resources.
So tapping into your passions. What's number three, Susie? I can't wait.
Okay, number three is a book. And
Oh,
I had the author of this book on my podcast and I joined a book club of his because I just think he's awesome. His name is Tom Sterner, and the book is called The Practicing Mind. And what it's about is the idea that the journey is really worthy. It's not about just getting to the goal. So the phase of whatever it is that you're working on where you're practicing a new skill, if you could learn to enjoy that as much as just attaining the goal, it can be life-changing. Because
hmm.
sometimes you might have a goal that's a year long or 3 years long or 5 years long. Are you just going to discount life and the practice and make the practice a grind? Or can you make the phase of skill development as worthy and a worthy enough experience that it's joyful and it brings you pleasure if you didn't have the pressure of finishing?
Yeah. What would you do if you didn't need to get paid for it or if you couldn't fail at it? Yeah, that's a great, I'm going to have to read that book.
Yeah, the practicing mind. It's a good one.
Yeah. Let's get into our Zentangle discussion. You
Awesome.
are a certified Zentangle teacher. What the heck is Zentangle?
Indeed, I am. So I have always been passionate about ink and pen and paper and doodling. And I was a calligrapher, when I was 12, and I was doing envelopes for people and for invitations and things. So when I discovered this, my head exploded. And really, it's just mindful doodling with repeated structured patterns. It's a method. It was developed by two people, Rick and Maria, the zentangle.com, and you can really learn so much about this pattern. So Zen is getting into the state of flow. And if you know anything about art therapy or relaxation and meditation, anything like that, and of course, listeners of your podcast do know about that, I'm sure.
Hopefully.
Yes, yes. So you are, by taking the time to doodle, where it's not like a piece of art where you have to make it perfect. And you're using these structured, repeated patterns. It's very freeing and relaxing. And the word tangle is a name that they use for the certain repeated patterns. So Zen, tangle, I just like to call it mindful doodling, but I did get the certification and it was super fun. And
Oh,
I'm like, wow, it's a movement. Like there were hundreds and hundreds of people at this training, and there are trainings around the world. So I love it so much for coaching in the midlife space, and it is a part of my signature program, which is called the Women in the Middle Academy, is because of present moment functioning. And this is what Tom Sterner is getting at in the practicing mind. So the
ah,
idea that if you can relax and stop focusing on finishing your piece of art or your Zentangle doodle or whatever it is, if you can just be present, you're winning the game when it comes to mindfulness. Like
yeah.
being present, I just find it such a useful tool because if you think about the way you create, you're very much focused on completing. And you have to ask yourself, be curious. If it's self care to take time for yourself, and this is something you're enjoying, why are you rushing through? If you're
Yeah.
giving yourself this time and you actually like doing it and you're practicing a new skill, why is it more important to go there than to be here?
It's a good question.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
this is what we're going to be doing in a new program I have coming out very soon, and it will be out by the time this podcast is live, called Doodle Think Club, the Doodle Think Club. And it's going to be focused on mindful doodling for women 50 plus. And we're going to do it so that we work on feeling calmer. Who doesn't need that? Thinking clearer because of the focus that we're going to be practicing the skills of being more present and reconnecting with what really matters. Because when you put yourself into that state of flow and you give yourself time to relax and you get better and better at getting relaxed, then you can think more clearly and you can get more clarity in your life about what it is that you want. So that's
Yeah.
what we're going to be doing while learning the skills of Zentangle.
Well, that sounds amazing. Do you have examples you could show us?
I do have a few examples. These are just from my personal stash, of course. I'll start with a traditional thing, and then there's so much you can do when you get rolling with all kinds. So this is one of, it's just traditional doodle. You can see that there are repeated structured patterns in several parts of this little piece, right?
Yeah.
So the
Beautiful.
each of the patterns we work on together, and then you put it in. There are 8 steps that go into this method, and it's a lot of fun. But then you can start to do a lot of other things. So this is a
Oh,
very simple one, but you can see it's just, if you looked really closely, it's just lines and dots,
wow.
right? And to do
Yeah.
that, I find most of these take about 20 minutes. And
Really? That's all?
yeah, and it's just
Yeah.
it's such a shot of relaxation.
Oh,
And
for
then
sure.
I've started to add watercolor. I've started
Really?
to add some color, but you can see the spaces.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's really important with the Zentangle method is that it's accessible. So if you're going to take it with you on the train or the plane, or let's say you're watching a game or something with the family, you're all sitting around, you have something to do. If
Right.
you want to, you can take it with you. It's basically, it fits in a Ziploc bag. You just have a pen. It's so accessible. And the other thing that the creators of Zentangle really appreciated was nature. A lot of these tangle designs have nature reflected. You'll start to see tangles everywhere when you start looking. Like sometimes you'll see them in wallpaper or in a hand knotted rug, or in tiles.
Yeah.
You'll see repeated patterns. So a lot of them reflect nature. Sometimes you'll see a reflection or a leaf or a flower. I mean, even a fish, the fish scales. Right? You'll see
Mhm.
repeated patterns in nature all the time. It's just
Yeah.
so beautiful. And then, you can even work larger. Again, I love the whale tails, so I'm always working on that. And
Yeah.
here's a more, traditional with some of the tangles in a larger size and not in a square format. So, the sky is the limit. And if you haven't ever looked into this, if you go to YouTube, your head will explode. Pinterest, your head will explode. In Instagram, there are just so many people expressing themselves through this. Whenever I'm upset, it is my number one way to get regulated again and just calm and relax. It works like a charm for me.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to bring this to more midlife women. And again, it'll be doodlethink.com. Doodlethink.com, available in by the time this podcast is live.
So the brain just really loves repetitive patterns. It loves like rhythmic movement. And like you say, it's that connection with natural patterns that we remember from the womb, that we see in nature, and our ancestors back in the caveman days saw in nature.
I just
So
love any time we can bring more nature into our world. It's a good thing.
absolutely. Yeah. Now, so you've got the program starting in January. You also have a number of freebies on your website. When I checked it out, I was like, wow, there's a lot of resources there. So we'll definitely have the website address in the show notes. Now, before we let everybody go, Susie, is there one thing you want people to take away from what we've talked about today? What's the most important thing you want midlife women to know?
So much pressure, Cheryl. Okay.
Sorry.
I think It's this idea of productivity. Like even in the last few weeks, it's come up so many times in my call on my calls with clients. Really think about the thought that you probably have, which is, I'm too busy. If you feel like this, if you feel rushed, just notice it and ask yourself, why do you think you're too busy?
Yeah,
Notice that you think you're too busy. Ask
yeah,
yourself, if is it really true? What are you
yeah,
making busy mean in your life? Are you valuing busy over relaxing or a slower pace or your identity? Just really think about it. And, in midlife, especially, we just want to make sure that there isn't a giant gap between the way we're living and the way we want to live, like who we want to become. Are we living in a way that's in alignment? I know that's very coachy to say alignment, but in
I
alignment
get it.
with what it is that we want more of. So if you fancy yourself a relaxed present woman, are you living that way? you know so are you the woman you want to be when somebody you bump into somebody in the grocery store and they want to do a little stop and chat? Do you feel too rushed to do that? Now I know sometimes you have an appointment, but a lot of times we just have this thought, I'm too busy, I don't have time. Just be curious about that. It may or may not be true, and then you have more awareness, and then you can be more intentional.
Yeah. I think that's such great advice. And I see that all the time in my practice as well.
I
So
see it
thank you
all.
so
I see
much.
me too. I see it in me.
Hey, girlfriend, I'm so glad that you're listening to this podcast. But I wonder if you wanted to take the work a bit deeper. Would you like to feel lighter, sleep better, and wake up energized again? Join my 60-minute free masterclass to learn the 5 steps that help me lose 25 pounds, reset my body, and finally feel calm, strong, and confident again. You can register on my website, and I really hope to see you soon.